Do you ever have a feeling? Do you ever have unavoidable things crashing towards us as photographers with AI that we're actually going to be have rendered? A feeling that this unavoidable things crash
because they're not working correctly somehow. Good evening, everyone. We're here on the Gavin Seim live show. This is our midnight show, and why not? Why not a midnight show? So I thought, let's do that. Let's make it happen. Right? We got nothing to lose here by a little midnight showing of the live stream. Hello to everybody in there. All you early chatters, good to see you. Bar Fighting, thanks for those super chats preemptively. Adding a few more minutes to the live stream because it is late. So we're gonna go for the 30 minutes, but I'm gonna tack on a little extra for those super chats of Bar Fighting. Ridiculous midnight live stream. New Jersey, howdy. First Amendment. Yeah, it's a little earlier back up north in the cold. Down here, us Southerners, us true Southerners. Of course, who is the true Southerner? Maybe Guatemalans are more true Southerners. But yeah, Mexico just, this is going to be the last year for daylight saving times because Mexico just did away with daylight savings time as well. But we're here. I'm pretty much on time. And Tammy, we got Tammy, Laura, Jake, we got Bar Fighting, Tom, and all you guys. Key Angel, Jake, good to see you guys in there. Pop it in there, get it going. Let's do this. Not too long of a live stream because it is late. It's midnight here. It's now 12:20, 20 minutes past the hour in Central Mexico. Arizona, good to see Arizona. I'm going to just kind of get it organized and going here. We got a topic today. Like always in the live stream, we have a topic, right? You have to have a topic. If you don't have a topic, there's no focus to the show. There needs to be something that we can cut out. But you can wait to talk about the topic. You can throw your thoughts in there, but I'm actually not. You know the rules of the live stream. And I'll talk about the topic when we open the topic. Because what happens is I can ramble on, but if I isolate the topic, then I can then quickly edit it out and save it as another video later. And I don't just look like a complete rambling idiot broadcasting out to the world. Just got back from Cancun. Cancun's very pretty, very touristy. So if you want a real Mexico, you can get a taste of the Mexican tourism thing. But I've never been there myself because the tourist thing is, I like destinations, but gringo tourist locations, I have a hard time getting excited. Cancun is very corruptly focused on making sure it's a destination for tourists. But it's gorgeous down there. I've heard. I want to go to Yucatan, the Yucatan Peninsula, which is the state just next door from Cancun or Quintana Roo. Because you have the same beautiful beaches and stuff, but it's way less touristy, way less expensive, a lot less overt corruption and extortion of the businesses, things like that. So that's cool. But yeah, it's gorgeous. And I know a lot of people that get their first taste of Mexico in Cancun and then they realize, hey, this is cool down here. Let's go see what the real thing is like. And it's hilarious for Cancun first-timers because those hotels down there in Cancun, here's what will happen. Let me throw this out there for those of you going to Cancun that may not know better. They will make a very strong effort to make sure that you stay in your resort if you go to Cancun. They'll be like, oh no, it's dangerous. You shouldn't just go wander around town. You shouldn't go out in the streets. Even though really, Cancun is a corrupt city. But for a gringo tourist, it's really not dangerous. And you get at least a little taste. If you go out of your resort and just wander the streets, you at least get a little taste of real Mexico. But the reason that the resorts don't want you to leave is because they're charging you $20 for a plate of tacos. And they know that as soon as you go out on the street, you're going to get better tacos. And that same plate of tacos is going to cost $2, $3, right? They know they're scamming you in the Cancun resorts where the gringos and the tourists go and the Europeans go. And And so they really, I remember talking to Kelly Stewart about this because she, a year or two ago, I think, went down to Cancun. And they were really doing the fear mongering, like, oh no, you shouldn't leave. Don't leave the resort. Like, which is, of course, total BS. They're just scammers. That's what they are. That's I guess one of the reasons I don't like Cancun is like its backbone. And most of these hotels, sure, they make jobs for local people, but these are foreign corporations and stuff running these resorts. This is not like, oh, I'm down here really supporting Mexico. They're charging you $20 for a plate of tacos, but they're still paying their employees $10 a day. So yeah, Cancun and its police super corrupt, but it is gorgeous. I mean, if you're going for a wedding or something like that, like just soak it in, just enjoy the beauty down there. But it's crazy. Archangel, shout out to you guys, all you guys jumping in there. How many do we got? How many do we got in the live stream? I like to peek us out a little bit, right? Before we start. We got 27. I've been doing a lot of tests lately. By the way, hit the like button right now. Hit it. Boom, boom, mash it. What do we say? Mash it, stomp it, hit it, strike it, ring the bell, whatever it is you do, because if you hit that like, it's going to send out notifications right now to more people, because we have 38 viewers and only 18 likes, right? Only half of you have liked the video. Let's play with those algorithms. Speaking of algorithms, here is this. Let me link this video. One of the reasons that brought about today's topic is this video right here that I'm putting in the chat. You can open it in a separate window if you want. And if you want, don't even watch it. This is on my photography channel. This is my other channel. And I did a video because we're talking about AI in terms of photos and things like that. And it got me thinking just about AI in general and thought, well, that might be a good topic for our late night live stream. And at the very least, just click it and go like that video. Maybe even mute it and let it play in the background for a couple minutes. Give it a little watch time, couple likes. That'll help my algorithm. That channel's small. That channel has like 9,000 subscribers. And so it's a slow climb to get that up there. But look at that. See, we just transformed the likes. And thanks for breaking the like button, Tom. XT5 is interesting in terms of cameras. I won't get too deep into that because I know this isn't really the photo channel. I would like to get an XT5. I have an XT3, which is a phenomenal camera. I've done most of my fashion portrait work with this, even though I have Sonys and other cameras. But the handling, the organic dials of the Fujis, and they have a good image quality. My Sony full frame stuff arguably has a little better image quality, but the aesthetic, the way a camera feels in my hand is very important to me. So my Sony, which we're shooting on right now, is full frame. I have big fancy lenses for it. I had two Sonys. I sold one this year because I needed the cash and I wasn't using it a lot, and it was getting dated anyhow. There's new models of it out, so maybe when I have the cash, I'll buy another one. But yeah, the X100, the XT3 is great. I also have an XE3, and yes, I also have the X100V. This is my street camera. You guys have seen me walking around with this. Phenomenal camera, but not interchangeable lenses. I can put old vintage lenses and everything on this, but I won't get too into cameras. And then I have, yes, the Sony for portable video. I have, well, this is an A7 III right here that we're shooting this on live, that's streaming directly to YouTube. That's why my live streams look so good, is because I'm shooting them on real cameras and lenses, and we're streaming over a really good gigabit fiber connection, so I can really push it out. And that's really what pushed me into doing more live streams, guys, is that I could get out here, because doing live streams on the phone, I just always cringed afterward. I know phones have gotten great, but the quality they put out in live streams just isn't good. And here I'm in a controlled situation. But I'm trying to do more videos where I'm out and about. New video coming this week, by the way, so stay tuned for that. About an incident that I was in that was interesting. So I'm going to try and make that exciting. Hope you guys will check it out. Some good stuff in that. But I appreciate the love for the photography channel as well. I am trying to grow that. I appreciate the likes from you guys. We're up to about 40 in here, so I think we're going to start the official topic. I've got a little bit of pulque right here. A little bit of pulque. I like to keep it in the fridge for a few days. They usually drink pulque at room temperature here, but I like cool drinks. So I will come in with the pulque and I'm thinking about poster image, right? Yeah, that's good. That's good. Let's put it right there. All right, there's the pulque. Pulque is the fermented agave juice, but it's not like tequila. It's not a hard drink. It's the street drink of Mexico. Pulque, mezcal, tequila, all those are basically whiskey, right? I mean, they're not whiskey because they're not grain-based. They're agave-based, okay? But those are a hard liquor, tequila, whiskey. They're all in that same category of distilled spirits, right? But the pulque is made from basically the water, the sap of the agave plant, okay? And this is fermented. This is sold in pulquerias. So this is not something you buy bottled at a store. It doesn't keep for a long time. This is something you buy fresh. And this is kind of interesting. Did my light just go down? I feel like, no, I guess we're good. So pulque is like a 55-gallon barrel. And what they did, pulque used to be the beer of Mexico, right? You had pulquerias. And they were basically the casual bar where you went and had pulque with your friends. Pulque is not mild. It has kind of a astringent, strong, almost acidic, which is rare for things in Mexico, very distinct flavor. It's like nothing else that you've had. And it's not something you can just buy on the beer aisle because it's pulque. It's made by hand. You go into a pulqueria, it's usually kind of a hole-in-the-wall place. There's a barrel in the corner, and they literally just scoop it out of the barrel. And I'm assuming, I don't know exactly how it's made. I've never made it myself, but I'm assuming they're replenishing that barrel, and it's continuing to ferment daily. A lot of times the barrels are surrounded by fruit flies. And so it's what happened is when commercial beer came to be, because this was what people drank. I mean, there would be 20 pulquerias in a town, right? Now there might be one or two in a town. And each one has their own style of pulque. A lot of times they'll mix it in with fruits and stuff. If you like it a little bit sweeter, they'll mix it in with guava or with mango or something like that to make it a flavor. But no, also not like moonshine. Moonshine, again, is hard liquor. This is not a distilled spirit. This is just a fermented drink. So think fermented like kombucha, fermented like beer, stronger than kombucha. This is a real alcoholic drink. Kombucha is more or less non-alcoholic. I would guess pulque varies depending on how many days it has, but I would say pulque, you can definitely get drunk if you drink pulque, and I don't, but it has a very soft feel, not like a cheap alcohol or something like that. So it's a very relaxing drink, and I would say its content is probably in the 7 to 10% range. So on the higher side of a beer, probably, maybe close to a wine, but a little less, but certainly not heavy. Usually when you go to a pulqueria, you buy it by the liter. So they give you a liter or a quart of pulque, and people will sit in there. So yeah, I mean, if you down 3 liters of pulque, you will definitely get yourself happy. So I don't take that approach. I don't like to be drunk, but it's because it's active. And we'll get to the topic here. I just thought you guys might like to hear about this weird Mexico stuff because this is not something you see in the States. I'm sure you can find Mexicanos making it, but maybe in the South, because you got to have fresh agave for this. But it's cheap too. 2 liters, 2 quarts of pulque, even in this town, even in this area in Querétaro, which is a little more expensive area, is $2.50, right? So for the cost of a couple beers, you have 2 quarts of this drink. And I think they make it fresh every day. It's not all created equal either. I have tried pulque from places, and I'm guessing it either wasn't prepared right or it was too old, and it can take on like a slimy, almost thick taste, and it's kind of gross. The pulque from this pulqueria is usually strong and very light and liquidy. It doesn't have any of that slimy texture. So if you've ever had pulque, and it seems slimy and weird, it shouldn't be that way. That's not how a good pulque is. But very natural and very, very active. One of the real reasons I get it. It's a nice drink. It's relaxing, but it's somewhat of an acquired taste. it's a super strong probiotic because it's not like beer where it's sterilized. I mean, it is super active. It's like when I talk about making fresh sauerkraut. In fact, I just made 30 pounds of fresh sauerkraut this week, and I'm going to ferment that for a couple of weeks. Phenomenal for the stomach. And I have a fairly sensitive stomach. So if my stomach's off, eat a bowl of real sauerkraut. Not canned, sterilized sauerkraut. Active, fermented sauerkraut. It tastes amazing. It's got that crunch. It's just good to eat. And your body immediately responds to it on like that probiotic level of like, this is good for me. Pulque is kind of the same way where like, if your stomach's off and you drink a beer, you might be kind of gassy and feel worse. The opposite is true of pulque. And it is bubbly. I mean, if you put it in a bottle and close the bottle and leave it in the fridge overnight, it'll be overflowing with natural carbonation. But yes, and we do use real vanilla extract here too. In fact, when you go to the beaches, they'll be selling little bottles of real vanilla extract. Usually it's not cheap. It's about $10 per quart, but it's real vanilla extract. Bar fighting. I'm drunk already, so cheers. Well, that's why you talk so crazy. Appreciate the support. So yeah, no, that fermented natural sauerkraut. I mean, for fermented sauerkraut, I know we're random, but this is what we do, right? There's going to be the main topic. Don't leave. We'll get to the main topic of this AI thing today. I'm just letting you guys all get in there and wound down. And we'll be going for a few minutes here yet. So how do I feel about tipping? Check out my video. The natural fermented drinks, another one they have is tepache. Tepache is more similar to kombucha, if you know what that is. Kombucha is basically sweet tea, and then you have like a catalyst, a seed in it, and you ferment it for a couple weeks, and it gets kind of astringent, tart, vinegary, and then you can add sugar or other sweeteners to it. Again, I make a lot of kombucha, not lately, but when I feel like it, I have kombucha seed around, and I make kombucha. All those kind of fermented drinks that are real fermented. A real beer that hadn't been sterilized, I'm sure would agree with the stomach much more, but you can't really get those that much. But pulque is very much a like off the street drink, just like tepache. It's less fermented. Tepache probably only has 1% alcohol, and it's made by basically throwing all the pineapple rinds and everything into water. I believe they add sugar, and then they ferment that for a couple days. It's warm down here in the South, generally speaking, right? Even now, as we're in the middle of November, it's even at night, it's 65, 70 degrees. So yeah, I mean, with and sauerkraut is super easy. The key is to not have it in too hot of a room so it molds, and it can be a little difficult in the winter months in certain areas because if it's too cold, that ferment doesn't get started. So you want to have that sort of, I would say probably 75 degrees or something is perfect. It doesn't have to be exact. It's pretty flexible. But with sauerkraut, you pretty much just chop up cabbage. Works very much similar to kimchi, but kimchi has a lot more stuff in it. Sometimes kimchi has meat and fish stuff and things like that, which is a little scary to me to like think about that fermenting, but I hear it's amazing. So I do want to make some kimchi. But a good jar of sauerkraut, I'll buy 30 pounds of kraut, just shred it up. And then you basically just put 10 grams of salt. And they say to use pickling salt. It really doesn't matter that much. Sea salt's fine. Iodized salt, they say not to use, but I've used it before and it works. 10 grams of salt for every pound of cabbage. Then you just kind of mash it up with your fist so it's all mixed in and the water kind of starts coming out of the cabbage. You put it all in a jar, put a little weight on it so that the liquids are rising to the top and they're submerging the cabbage. You don't want like loose vegetables sticking up because those can mold. So you kind of seal that all off and just put a loose lid on it. You still want air getting to it. And you just let it sit for 2 to 3 weeks. The longer it sits, the stronger it gets. And it's amazing. And then you jar it up. When you jar it up and put it in the fridge, it does still ripen a little over time, but it more or less stops the ferment. And yeah, it's good pulque. And I got 2 though here. And this is just pure Jamaica without sugar. It's good for the body. No fermentation or nothing here. Just pure Jamaica flour, which is a very common street drink you'll see, but usually they load it with sugar. It's very tart, almost like without sugar, It's like unsweetened cranberry juice, more or less. And medicinally, for things like the kidneys, the liver, the urinary tract system, things like that, it has more or less, it has similar properties. And you can tell when you taste it that it kind of has that cranberry juice thing going on. So some random things that you don't normally get to see on the channel, but I am trying to show more of these things in my Facebook stories. So, my YouTube shorts. I'm trying to show little street videos, taquerias, things that are going on, just to kind of, so we can explore the world together a little bit, right? So, it's good. It's good to learn what's going on. There's a lot more natural foods down here. They're getting ruined by the junk food as well, don't get me wrong. The convenience stores are full of it. But there's a lot of natural foods. But I think we should start the real show because I want your guys' feedback. And it doesn't have to be long. I just got thinking about this. If you guys have any links that are interesting or anything, you can throw them in the chat. I do appreciate our super chatters in there. Also a shout out to our channel backers. Cheers to you guys. Appreciate those ongoing monthly supporters of the channel. And I appreciate those likes and comments and everything. Please remember when I finish the live streams, especially if I edit out a video, just to go back and check it out. At least give it a like and leave it a comment on the actual published video. Because the likes and comments now in the live feed don't really count towards the final. But yeah, my thoughts on crypto, my thoughts on tipping, you can find those. One more story today. I went to a restaurant this afternoon. I usually try and go out and relax a little on Saturday and Sunday when I can. And that's interesting. I'll have to look into whether there's a way to people put links because we haven't had a lot of spam in here lately. Of course, if we put links, then there will be spam. I don't know if you can put a link without the HTTP or not. But you can also, if there's something in the news, put in quotes, like whatever to search for. I can do that too. If there's like the name of the headline of an article, right? If I go over here and then just do a web search for it, it'll usually come up. Anyways, today I went to this restaurant, kind of a pub style restaurant. And I went in there. Let me see if do I have a video of this restaurant? I might actually have a little video. Here, let me throw these in my Dropbox. Because if I throw them up there, I can show you guys what I was up to. So I went out and was checking. We were having some lunch. And we ordered some ribs. And I was like, okay, this is cool. But I had a beer. Ordered some ribs. And so we ordered drinks. And then I said, just give us this plate of ribs. And it said for one person or for two people. And he's like, it's like a pound of ribs for one person. And the two-person one, which was like $12, he said that's double. And I'm like, well, that's quite a bit of ribs. So I ordered that. I'm like, we weren't super hungry, and that was just like good, hearty food. So we ordered this ribs and a couple drinks. And is this it? Yeah, we were here. We were right here. Let me actually throw it up there. Let me see if I got audio. I always put the audio on the headphones when we're live. So we're here. Switching. Hola, mami. And it's kind of this British-themed like pub thing going on. There's me being guapo. Let me see if I can replicate that. Kind of my Calvin Klein look, I like to say. Anyways, we're in this thing. And one thing I noted was look at this here. This is out the window. Look at this. So look at this here. It's like a shade thing for the plaza below, but it was right out the patio. And I was thinking, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want to walk out on that thing there? My wife wasn't particularly impressed, but I just really thought, wow, I could jump out the patio and walk up on that thing. Of course, it might be rotten and I might fall and like break myself, but I really wanted to go out and use that as a trampoline and then like make a YouTube short out of it. But I figured probably people would panic and I might die. So I decided against it. Like sometimes you have to pick your battles, right? And just use a real trampoline. Anyways, I went to, got the drinks. And we ordered the ribs. And about 30 minutes passed. He brought the drinks. About 30 minutes passed, and he comes and he said, "Is there anything else you need?" And I'm like, "Well, the food." And he's like, his eyes glaze over, and I'm like, "Oh, brother." He's like, "The food." He's like, "Well, what did you order?" I'm like, "I ordered the ribs for 2. And so he's like, "Oh, okay, just a second. Maybe those haven't come out yet." And it was obvious he forgot to order them. Instead of just like admitting it, it was clear that he didn't put the order in. And I was just like, oh, because Sandra was getting hungry. And you know how the ladies are when they get hungry. Like, us men can starve for a few days, but your woman, when there's hunger, it's game over. All right? That's how it is. It's here, the same, maybe even more so here in Mexico. So, Jacob, those cables were strong on that thing. I mean, I'm just one little guy, all right? I'm not huge. So, a while later, probably pushing 40 minutes now, I go downstairs and I'm like, we still don't have our food. We're coming up on an hour. How long can it take, guys, for ribs? And like the manager was like, what's going on? And I was clearly kind of getting irritated. I'm like, the señorita tienes hambre. So I was pretty annoyed by this time. Did I go down a third time? I can't even remember because I think that was the final time. In the end, I went down like 2 times. Like, what's the problem? Finally, they brought this little plate of ribs, and it was. Let me actually show you what the plate of ribs looked like, because I ordered ribs for 2, and then this came. So this came. And it walked in. And I'm like, whoa. Because we're in Mexico, right? Portions are generally pretty real. And I'm like, what is this? They're prepared kind of like wings, right? It wasn't a rack of ribs, although they were pretty tasty. They're done this way. This is a fairly common way to do them in Mexico, where they're kind of, places that serve wings also serve ribs, and they're prepared in a very similar fashion. But there was like 8-10 little pieces on here, right? I'm like, this can't be a for 2. You said there was 800 grams, which would have been like 2 pounds of ribs, right? And he's like, well, that looks like the 2. And this guy like had no clue, right? He had no clue what was going on. I really think maybe this was the for 1. And then the manager kind of walks up because we were irritated. He comes up on the balcony there, and I'm like, this is the for 2. I thought it said it was like a for 2. This is like a snack for 2. This is not a meal. And he's like, yeah, that's for 2. And I don't know if they were just straight lying to me, but this is not for 2. And this is certainly not a 2-pound order. And he's like, oh, well, the meat is weighed before we cook it. I understand that. Like if you get a 200-gram hamburger, it's 200 grams of hamburger. Obviously, some of the grease goes off when you cook it. But these are ribs. There's no way these were 2 pounds of ribs before. So this was supposed to be, because they had it on the menu for 1, or a platter for 1, or for 2, right? So this was supposed to be the big platter, and I'm like, no. And at this point, and this wasn't priced like an appetizer, this was priced like a meal in terms of, this was only like $12, right? But in terms of relation to other things on the menu, like I didn't see this presented as an appetizer, particularly on the menu. But more importantly, he said it was 400 grams, but times 2, so 800 grams, which is about 2 pounds. And yeah, they weren't bad. And so the manager at this point knows that we're annoyed. He's like, well, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. We're not going to charge you for these. at that point I was like, whatever, that's nice. That's a good gesture. I mean, I know food service. I know a bit about food service and serving customers. The quickest way to an annoyed customer's heart, including mine, is you give them something notable for free because you screwed up. That's simply, and I tell people that I work with in food service down here when I'm supervising and training them, I'm like, because there's a lot of times that kind of service isn't common. You have these restaurants and they're used to being like, there's a mindset in business, even though they're very friendly as family and people. In businesses, they'll oftentimes try and nickel and dime you for everything. If you don't like it, like they still want their money. And so when I'm training people down here to work in food service, I'm like, you have to change the mindset. We don't operate like Mexico when it comes to service, right? The customer is first, even if we lose money. Because if a customer leaves angry, it costs us far more than what it costs us. You never charge for things like water. You don't nickel and dime them and be like, oh no, well, yeah, we can give you that, but we're gonna have to charge you more, unless it's something that's a completely different thing, right? And the number one rule that I teach people when I'm doing food service training down here is that if you have an unhappy customer, you give them something. So I was actually kind of happy to see this at this little restaurant. It did make my experience feel better because I was getting to the point in my mind of like 1-star review territory. And then the manager, just kind of took over a little bit. And he's like, no, we're going to take care of this. We're not going to charge you for it. And when the bill came for our 2 drinks, it was like $3, right? And then we got the ribs and they didn't charge us for those. So yes, even though the server was clueless, I think he was new. He wasn't mean or anything. He just didn't do his job. But I still the bill was 60 pesos and I left 120. So I actually left 100% tip mostly because I didn't want to present myself as people because I did the video of like, no one has to pay tips. People were like, oh, you're just a jerk who doesn't like to pay tips. I generally speaking pay more tips than is normal here. A normal tip in Mexico is 10%. I usually tip a little more unless they just did a crappy job, and then I won't. And even though this guy's service was crappy, they were trying to resolve it, and I felt bad. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take some of the money that I would have paid for the ribs and just give it to the serving staff. How they can decide how to divide that up. So no, there was no forced tip on the check. In fact, forced tips are illegal here. Sometimes they will add a tip to the check, and like I said, I will make them take it off, but they never try to force you. The idea that they could force you, it's very clear if you ask them. They're like, oh no, that's voluntary. But I still get annoyed if they add it as part of the check. They can put a recommended tip on the check, but you can't make it part of the cost. And when I'm teaching the food service students down here, the customer service staff, I'm very clear with that too. I'm like, you earn your tips. Earn those tips. You get out there and you hustle it and you make the customer happy. You earn the tips. You get them to leave reviews. You earn the bonuses, things like that. And the service is first. And you really have to, sometimes people are having a bad day and you have to put up with that. That's what it means to be in service. And if you don't like that job, then leave. It's just like I said to the people in the tip video, if you're not getting good tips, you're either in a place that doesn't get good tips and you shouldn't work there unless they're going to pay you a fair wage, or you're doing a lousy job. If you're in a nice restaurant where people are getting good tips and you're the only one that's not, it's because you suck at your job. And so you either fix it or leave and go get a job that works for you. It's not rocket science. So yeah. Mandatory gratuity. We've been going for a while. I'm going to open up our topic here. Now that we've talked about ribs, we've talked about all kinds of weird crap tonight. I told you this was going to be a crazy midnight live stream, and it is 12:50 down here. I'm not going to go all night, but I'm tacking a few minutes on for you guys because there's 50 of you in there, and because Bar Fightin' pitched in with some super chat, and when you super chat, I add an extra minute to the show, up to a point of an hour and a half, 2 hours. Normally 2 hours, but I don't know if I can go that long tonight because I do have things to do tomorrow. But I've been going for over 40. At 1, the time will be up. So we have just enough time to do our main topic and for me not to be long-winded. It's funner to be long-winded when we're interacting and talking, right? But long-winded live streams are not always that fun to watch after. What I need is to set up, and I'm sure there's a service for this, where we can take the entire live stream and then extract it and have it sent out as a podcast. I think that might be fun. And we worked out the ribs. Let me see where we're at. Let's talk about this AI thing. I'm going to open up the show officially. Because I'm not sure about the Dave Chappelle monologue. ADL. Is this about AI? Let me just look here before we start. Or is this about something else? Oh, no, this is not about AI. We probably won't be able to get into this tonight because I have to kind of pick a topic and go with it, especially on a show this late. Oh, this is the whole, like, yeah, okay. I haven't looked into this one yet, so this is one I'd have to look. Appreciate it, Barry, and bar fighting. Berries, is that pounds? Is that are those pounds? Thank you very much. We'll do a short after show too, right? And we got 50 in here. I'm gonna do. Good to see you, Jacob. Good to see you. Let's start the main show, all right? We get everything in place. So, here's the reason for today's show. Evening, everybody. Welcome to the main show of the Gavin Seim Show, or should I say the main topic of the night. AI. Will it destroy us all? Will it save us from corruption? Are we AI? And we're just living in a virtual reality. All this and more tonight on Coast to Coast with Gavin Seim. Let's talk about it. I'm kidding with that stuff. That was just the opening of the show. It's how we open a show, right? You have to have a little flair when you open, welcome. Let's talk about the mysteries of the universe. I want to do this AI topic. I actually the reason I did this is I just finished a video. I was editing this the past couple days. And I just finished a video regarding AI and photo. Because I'm a photographer by trade. And so I have another channel called Seim that's my photography channel. And so I did this video because there's been a lot of AI tools coming out in our editing software like Adobe Lightroom and stuff like that. And I think AI is a little bit of a stretch on some of these things. I think AI is the buzzword, and they're calling everything AI. And maybe it's machine learning. They have these words that they throw around, right? But AI is the big buzzword in 2022, and especially coming into 2023, probably in 2024. People are going to start getting sick of it because AI suggests, well, it doesn't suggest, it means artificial intelligence, right? So when we talk about AI, what does that mean? I'm just going to show you the first minute of this video because this video was talking about editing techniques on my channel. And so I'm not going to show you that whole video, but I'm just going to show you what kind of brought me to this topic. Do you ever have a feeling that this unavoidable thing's crashing towards us as photographers with AI, that we're actually going to be rendered unnecessary? When I go out and shoot and I'm looking for shadow and I'm seeing light, and I'm trying to convey emotions. I'm doing a portrait session and I'm trying to make someone feel beautiful on the streets. And I'm trying to capture a slice of life, a piece of people's soul that is timeless. AIs can do a lot of work for us. And this is no more true than the recent videos I've been showing you with the masking AI tools. And yet, to me, these AI tools that they're calling AI aren't actually that intelligent. While it's remarkable that with text input you can get this, the original is actually better. There's something about these AIs that feels less like they're creating and more just like they're taking our creations and remixing them. But let's not fool ourselves. I was there when... Okay, so that is this AI video that I just did. And as we go through this video, you can check it out over on the channel. I'll even post the link, but it's over on my other channel if you follow my photography and tech channel. And so, yeah, you have these things like DALL-E, you have these AI text generators where you can input text and you get these images out. And it's fascinating because it's new and it's exciting. It's kind of amazing that you can say, oh, give me the Mona Lisa, but have her riding a horse and drinking a beer, drinking a Budweiser. Right? And it will generate this image that oftentimes is kind of cartoonish and all this stuff. So AI is used for a lot of things. And in photography, as I show in this video over here, the tools are allowing us, for example, I'll even show you guys in real time. Let me pull up a couple of these photos and see. Let me make sure I don't have anything that'll piss anybody off here. That's like, me picking on police or anything. No, I'm just kidding. Everybody loves it when I pick on police. If I go to a photo here, right? And this is particularly, we can select skies and all this kind of stuff in Lightroom, but it's becoming particularly relevant for portraits because retouching we would have to do in the past. And the intent of this video was actually that you don't need the AI. You can come in here and in Lightroom, you can see that this AI has automatically selected the lips, the eyes, the hair, all these different elements of the photo. And you can see if I turn it off, and I make presets that utilize these in Lightroom. If I turn it off, it's just a normal processed image, right? Let's zoom in. And if I turn it on, I can do all these detailed retouching that would normally and traditionally take a long time. To be clear, this kind of retouching was being done in the 50s, right? We were just, well, I wasn't, but the photographers were airbrushing the negatives and the prints going to the magazines and things like that. It's just gotten a lot easier. Here's this portrait of Sandra, and let me turn off all of these. Now, all these masks and edits, right? I've applied like a film preset from my Filmist presets that I make, and it looks decent, but my light is a little imperfect. It's a little flat. And here's what happens with all these masks into an AI. Now, I defined all the settings, right? The AI didn't say, here's what to do, right? I told it, hey, this is the hair. I want you to take the settings on these hair and, change the color of the hair. What the AI is doing in this particular case is it's making the selection of the hair and every other part of my subject, and it's doing a very detailed job at it here. It's making that selection for me. So I just click and it selects all these and makes a layer that represents all those. And then I can define the settings of those layers, right? Here's another one here. And there's really no practical reason to do this, but I was just demonstrating this. Normally we'd use this to soften the skin on the face and stuff like that, make the hair look better. But I made the lips and the eyes blue just because I could, just to illustrate how strong these selections are. Here's another portrait right here, and you can see we have all these masks and all these selections were made by the AI, right? So here's the normal process of the photo. You have phone apps that are doing this as well. This is just far more advanced and gives you way more control. And here's what the AI is doing in that I'm individually able to work with every element of this. And as a photographer, that's a neat thing. But the concept here, is that our photographers becoming irrelevant. And I think the same could be said for a lot of other industries as these so-called AIs are coming together. This still requires a lot of user input. I actually design and sell presets to make this easier because Lightroom will make all these selections, but it doesn't actually say this is what looks the best. Now, in a year or two, it might. However, for taking photos, yeah, okay, it's great. It's great. But what about in the real world? Where are you guys seeing AI? And what do you think? You're seeing now we have these robots that can walk. We have robot dogs. We have humanoid robots, which were kind of the holy grail for a long time, that can run and jump and get themselves back up. And now you enter AIs into this, and it's very apocalyptic movie kind of stuff, right? Here's what I want to know. And obviously, we can use, just like the cell phones, right? And the intelligence of these. 20 years ago, it was unimaginable that we could do what we can with cameras and technology and communications in these. But of course, as we saw the past few years with the sickness, they use that against us, right? Oh, we can communicate instantly on Facebook. We can live stream. And then what happened? Well, it's controlled by 2 or 3 or 4 corporations who are in bed with the government. And in the end, they control all the information anyway, and we're screwed, right? So the government always comes in, just like my Bitcoin video, the idea is like, oh, it's decentralized, except it's not, because the government comes in and centralizes it, and if you don't like it, you go to prison like Ross Ulbricht, like Jeff Winehouse, like Schaefer Cox. If you resist the system, like Leonard Peltier, if you resist the system, they put you down. We don't have other sound going still, do we? Somebody said something about dual sound. There should be nothing running right now. So hopefully we don't have a feedback loop. Anyways, so I'm not sure what you mean bar fighting. Dual sound. And no, it's not, this isn't PG-13. This is just my day job of working with photos and things like that. So what do you guys think, right? And, we say, they're gonna do this. They're gonna use it. Of course, they're gonna use it against us. They use the TV against us. They use the car against us. They use the radio against us. They use the cell phone, the social media. The corrupt are always going to use any technology against us. But we can also use it for good. So it's not but as a photographer, because I watch and I talk about this in this video, I started on film, and when digital came, most of the photographers went out of business. Only the ones that could really excel at their job, because the mediocres, well, anybody could do it, especially when the cell phones got good. Like, you didn't need to hire a mediocre cheap photographer. For the cheap photos, you could just use your photos. So that market transformed. We have these AIs where it can make images. Pretty soon AIs will be able to print on our 3D printers, like the one I have here, right? We'll be able to tell it with a text input, hey, I want this part to look like this. I want it to do this and made up of these materials. And it will just make it. You won't even have to hire a designer. And yet, when you look at these AI tools, they're very much lacking a human element. I think most of the tools that are called AI are not intelligent. I think they're just really big libraries of algorithms, and they don't really seem very intelligent. But I think they are getting there to where, are we getting to the point? Have you seen anything? I know they make robots and it looks like, oh, these are doomsday robots. They talk, they say sinister things to Elon Musk and to Jeff Bezos and stuff like that. But are these just programmed responses? Because we have huge storage. We have really fast access now. We have fast processors. We have good voice synthesis. We have all this technology. But I'm actually still a little skeptical of whether these are, quote, intelligent. And I know that's a hard line to define, and I think they're getting more. I have no doubt they're going to be used against us to control people more and more and more. The people love their entertainment, they love their toys, and the AIs will enter into that control. But as you look at these robots, right? I mean, you have these crazy, like the Boston Dynamics robots, right? Let's actually look, if you look at like these things here, they are getting to the point where they're almost soldiers, right? They're almost ready to be soldiers. I mean, look at these. The mobility, the ability, I mean, yes, it's an algorithm, but the ability to analyze surroundings on this kind of a level, I mean, it's pretty scary, because we're not going to have these. The Psycho Blue ISIS police are going to have these. I mean, we're talking about dancing and interacting with each other and seeing, and, this is pretty crazy stuff. It's pretty crazy stuff. And so, yeah, are we coming to the end of everything? And is this going to be instrumental in it? Well, the technology is always going to be used against us. I just was kind of thinking, let's talk about this. In my perspective, I think these AIs are going to continue getting better. I think most of what's called an AI. And yeah, we're seeing these robots that are getting weapons on them. I mean, this is scary stuff because they risk nothing and we risk everything to try and defend ourselves. And it's just getting worse and worse. So they're going to be used for violence by the government because that's who the government is. It's what they are. They're a cartel of violence all over the world. That's what governments do. They have to maintain their power. And so they have unlimited funds because they steal them from us. And so I think most of the things that, we're supposed to subscribe to, that we see, we're using a software tool and they call it AI. I think most of them are not really AI. They're just algorithms that might work good, right? It's like an AI that, checks your writing, right? It's just an advanced spell checker that has more contextual awareness. Is it an AI? I think that's kind of a stretch. And we're seeing a lot of that. Is this thing that I showed you in Lightroom where it's helping me edit photos, is it really an AI? I don't know. I don't know if I would even call it that intelligent, but it is pretty intelligently selecting, the hair. It's selecting the hair better than I could in a short period of time to do all the selections that it does in 3 seconds on any image. And I can make a predefined preset, and you just click it and it applies 10 of these different layers on a photo, separates each individual part and applies the settings that I've defined in that preset to optimize that photo in Lightroom. This is my day job. Using that technology, I would spend a good hour doing that masking. Now, is it bad that an AI is taking that job from me? Not really, because I don't want to. I actually wouldn't spend an hour doing that on most images. Now I can take those extra level of refinements to improve my images, to improve a photo, and I can apply it to 50 photos at a time and just let the computer do the work, right? I don't even have to manually change the settings because I've predefined those parameters. So it's good, but at the same time, as the photographers, the art world is is our creativity, right? The illustrators that illustrate for cartoons and magazines and advertising are thinking, am I relevant? Or are you just going to be able to say something to a computer or type it in and it'll make something better than I can do? But one thing you've noticed on the artistic side of these things, pretty much, if you show me an AI-generated image at this point, I can tell you it's an AI-generated image. It doesn't look like an image that someone created. It looks like a hodgepodge Photoshop together thing, really done really well, but it still looks artificial. Now that you could say, oh, that's an art form in itself. That's fine. That's another topic. I think these are fascinating. And I think the same thing goes, what about writers, right? Are you going to be able to say, I want a story about this. This is my main plot point. These are the names of my characters, blah, blah. So you fill out a form and it writes you a Stephen King novel? Well, maybe a Stephen King novel, but not a Brandon Sanderson novel, right? Because the nuance isn't going to be there. What I'm getting at is AIs are going to be used to control us, whether they're intelligent or not. Are they going to get out of control? Are these robots going to start arming themselves against us like they do in the movies? You got me. I think what's more realistic than in the movies, it's always like the machines get out of control. And this is kind of my ultimate thought on this. In the movies, the machines get out of control and they annihilate or try to annihilate humanity. In reality, it's our government and their police enforcers that are out of control and that are trying to annihilate free-thinking people. They will use these machines to every extent possible to do that. And I think that's what we got to be aware of. And I think it's good for the upcoming generation to be informed because machines can be thwarted just like human beings can be thwarted, right? And the thing is about technology like this is, yes, the government gets it and uses it against us, but people also get it. Normal folks also get it. We also, they have the internet and the cell phones, but so do we, and they're fairly accessible. So what does that mean? I won't get into too much because they'll demonetize me. This video is probably demonetized already. But I think that these machines will be used against us. I think AI, this year, we're going to see it grow. You might start seeing even some sparks of what we perceive as intelligence. I think at the end of the day, people like to play God, and they're not actually near as good at it as they like to be because these bodies and our minds, as fragile as they are, there's a spark there, right? There's a soul there. And I haven't seen any of these demonstrations on these kind of things. Their ability to have sensory input, to see the surrounding, it makes them dangerous, right? You can look at these right here and see, oh yeah, I mean, these can totally be used against us, right? No question about it. They can dance, they can bounce around, they're agile, strong, you can barely push them over. We're talking about a pretty amazing piece of technology. Appreciate it, man. Bar fighting. And am I an AI? Am I even here? Maybe I'm deep fake, right? What is that? So you see all these videos, right, that do this, like, oh, I've been deep faked, look, it's real. But I haven't seen much of this technology that can actually be convincing for a long period of time, right? You can make a deep fake, but can it interact on an ongoing basis like you and I are right here, contextually, interactively, historically, knowing information and data? And if I am maybe I'm an AI and that's why I'm so annoying. People don't like me because I'm an AI. But I'm here to tell you. I'm going to tell you straight up so that we don't get a conspiracy. I am not an AI. But then, that's exactly what an AI would tell you, right? How cool is that? So it's like this, there's no escaping the eventuality that the collective unintelligence of people, the less intelligence they make us. And that's what they're doing. They're draining the intelligence from the population. They're putting it into algorithms, machines, and maybe borderline intelligences, however you define that. They're putting it into them and using it against us to continue to make us subservient and less and less and less intelligent. And that's my thought on what's happening with AI and the direction it's going. And we'll see in the next year or two, we're going to see a lot because it's the buzzword right now. We'll see how much actually will be made of it. All right, you guys, that's all for our AI topic today. Let me know in the comments what you think. We'll see you on the next one. How do you know you're not artificial, Jacob says. Would you even know? That brings us back to the opening scenes on Coast to Coast with Gavin. Are we all AIs? And we don't even know it. Which is kind of silly because if I was created, I'm not artificial, which begs the question if what is artificial? I don't know. Let's not go down the rabbit hole, okay? Let's not go down the rabbit hole, people here. The show is over. Peace. All right, so that's the show. That's the show. I'm going to mark it. If I mark it, I can easily edit this later. I should have marked the opener. Add a stream marker. You know what I'm going to do just because I can? I'm going to throw an ad in. Look at that. It says add. It says add inserted right there. Isn't that annoying? I'm sorry. I know you guys are like supporting the live stream. We're just experimenting with the algorithm, okay? Does the video go further if we throw an ad? And I'll show you what I did to you guys. I know, it's sick. There's a button up here. I can click in the live stream studio, right? Add a stream marker, create a highlight video, or insert an ad. So if I clicked this over and over and over again, I assume it would just keep inserting ads until you all left. So no, I don't normally put ads in the live streams, but sometimes I see that button and I'm like, if I click that button, I'm looking at you guys with love and friendship in my heart. And I'm like, mis amigos, probablemente se va a molestar si me ponen publicación en este video. Pero tal vez me voy a ganar como $1. Y eso es 3 tacos. Entonces, puse. That, when I say puse, the video's going to get censored for that. That means push. It means push the button. Filthy minds. Even the AI has a dirty mind because it doesn't understand my Spanish accent. So yeah, add 20 ads. I don't even think these ads probably there's still only 40 of us here, right? So these ads probably make me like 1/2 of 1 cent to add an ad to this. But in any case, I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to torture you. It's late. I'm pretty sure I fulfilled my time because I've been going an hour, and normally it's 30 minutes is the normal time, and we've received about $23 in Super Chat. So I've actually given you guys like 5 bonus minutes here, and it's late, and I'm tired. And I'm on the last sip of my pulque, and pousse is push, okay? P-U-S-E, guys. Pousse. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right because I have a huge accent. It's embarrassing. It's ridiculous. 7:50 a.m. in Scotland. Shout out to Scotland. It's practically the other side of the world. I would like to visit Scotland one day. Scotland and Ireland both. It's one of my bucket list areas as a photographer. But that doesn't mean that bucket will ever arrive. Empujar is also push. Pousse is like press the button. Empujar is like push the door open. Poner is to put, like, poner your cup. So yeah, and it's interesting. But we're down the rabbit hole now. We've done the main show, and I'll put that up. Tomorrow I'll put that up. If you guys see it, give it a like, leave a comment, give it a couple watch time from our main show. And we're doing okay. Business is a little slow. Kids are getting big. And I appreciate all you guys for coming into the live show here. It's late. And I think I'm going to wrap it up. There's still 44 of you in here, which is great because all over the world, it's either, well, it's kind of late or early. I guess there's a few places in the world where it's not late or early. It's like the middle of the day. But I feel like most of the people in here. Hi, Jose. That word probably would get me censored. So yeah, look it up. It's that word's how babies are made. Let's just put it that way. Tomar is to drink, or tomar can also be to take. Like, well, I think they usually say the conjugations of these words can get confusing. Like take it, like toma. Toma? I think it's toma. Tomar is usually used in the context of like drinking it. But I think it could be taking it too. It's confusing, guys. It's confusing. 7 hours isn't too bad. Maybe someday when I have my private jet paid for by my YouTube channel. Yeah, because that's going to happen. All right, you guys, bar fighting, all our super chatters, our channel backers. I appreciate you guys. And I'm going to wind it up. You can see I'm getting tired. No, it's not the pulque. I'm just getting tired and my brain is slowing down. And I've been working too hard lately to just keep everything going. And it's stressful sometimes. The world sucks these days. And we live with it. And we try to have some faith, love our neighbor, act like Jesus, because it matters. Those kind of things matter. So, buenas noches a todos. Muchas gracias por venir esta noche conmigo en esta video en vivo. Qué gusto conocerte. Qué bueno. Buenas noches. All right, you guys. I'm going to close it. I'm going to close it before it gets any more. I said this was a ridiculous late night live stream. Thank you for tuning into the Gavin Seim live show. It was a ridiculous late night live stream. But I still wanted to talk about AIs. And I think we had a decent segment on AI that basically no one will watch because it's not going to be exciting enough for the algorithm. And yes, the kids don't have much of a problem with Spanish because they were all pretty young when we came here. So they're picking it up very well. The little ones won't even really have an accent. The bigger ones do, but they communicate very well. I do as well. I mean, I'm very conversational in Spanish, but my daughter is probably actually better than me in a lot of areas. So yeah, I think we had a good time. Gracias a todos. Gracias a todos. And I'm going to end that on that note. Peace, you guys. Stay safe. Have a good night or a good morning, wherever you are. A good afternoon. Yeah, we're going. We're going. Come on, R2. We're going.